Chapter 1. Imagine being born as the most powerful prince in the world, only to have your own family destroy your future before you even become a man. Your power stolen, your destiny erased, your body broken. And then, after surviving years of torture and humiliation, the empire sends you to die in a war you can't possibly survive. But what if that broken prince didn't die? What if losing everything created a monster powerful enough to shake the heavens themselves? This is the story of Qin Yun, the prince betrayed by his empire, who would one day make the 9 suns tremble. In a world ruled by cultivation, only the strong survive. Long before kingdoms existed, the world was frozen in darkness. No warmth, no life, only endless cold. Then one day, 9 massive suns appeared in the sky. Their divine flames awakened spiritual energy across the world. Mountains split apart, oceans roared with life. Creatures evolved into terrifying beasts. And humanity discovered cultivation, the power to absorb spiritual energy and transcend mortality itself. Over millions of years, martial empires rose across the land. Powerful cultivators could destroy mountains with their fists and command terrifying heavenly abilities. But in this world, strength was everything, and weakness meant death. Among all the great kingdoms beneath the 9 suns, one empire stood above the rest. The heavenly Qin Empire. And inside its golden palace, a child prodigy was born. His name was Qin Yun. From the moment Qin Yun was born, the empire knew he was different. He possessed the legendary 5 spiritual veins, an ability so rare that most cultivators only dreamed about it. With 5 spiritual veins, Qin Yun could absorb the power of multiple suns at once. His cultivation talent terrified even the empire's strongest experts. At only 5 years old, he could already sense spiritual energy. At 7, he defeated older martial students with ease. At 10, the empire believed he would one day rule the 9 suns world itself. But talent creates fear, and fear creates enemies. Inside the royal court, corrupt officials secretly began plotting against him. The empress feared his growing influence. The nobles feared his future power. And the new royal faction wanted their own prince on the throne. So they created the perfect lie. They accused Qin Yun of secretly cultivating forbidden demonic arts. Overnight, everything changed. The royal court turned against him. The empire branded him a monster. Even the emperor abandoned his own son. And then came the cruelest betrayal imaginable. At only 10 years old, Qin Yun was chained down while royal experts forcefully ripped 4 spiritual veins from his body. The pain nearly killed him. Blood covered the palace floor. His screams echoed through the halls. But no one came to save him. Not a single person. That night, the future emperor died. And a broken outcast was born. After losing 4 spiritual veins, Qin Yun became worthless in the eyes of the empire. The former crown prince was thrown into an abandoned section of the palace. Forgotten. Humiliated. Mocked by servants and nobles alike. In this world, spiritual veins determine everything. Without them, cultivation becomes nearly impossible. Most people would have given up. But Qin Yun refused. Every morning before sunrise, he trained. Every night until exhaustion destroyed his body, he trained. While other princes enjoyed luxury and status, Qin Yun wore armor weighing over 500 pounds. He punched until his hands bled, collapsed, then forced himself back up again. Again. And again. And again. Because deep inside him burned one thing stronger than pain. Hatred. Hatred for the people who destroyed his life. Hatred for the empire that abandoned him. Hatred for his own weakness. And that hatred became fuel. 5 long years passed. 5 years of suffering. 5 years of isolation. 5 years of impossible determination. Until finally, a miracle happened. Qin Yun broke through to the second martial body realm. For the first time since losing everything, he saw hope. But fate had one more nightmare waiting for him. One cold night, fireworks exploded across the palace sky. The empire celebrated the rise of a new crown prince. But while the kingdom celebrated, Qin Yun trained alone beneath the darkness. Exhausted after hours of cultivation, he walked toward a well to wash away the blood and sweat covering his body. That's when an old palace steward appeared before him. His expression was grim. The emperor has issued a royal decree. Qin Yun immediately sensed something was wrong. The steward lowered his head. Any prince who fails to reach the fourth martial body realm within 10 days will be sent to the front lines against the Beastman army. Silence filled the air. Qin Yun froze. The Beastman army wasn't just dangerous. It was a slaughterhouse. Savage creatures capable of tearing soldiers apart with their bare claws. Even trained warriors feared the battlefield. And now, the Empire wanted to send him there to die. Not because he was weak, but because they feared what he might become. Qin Yun clenched his fists so tightly his nails cut into his palms. Once again, the Empire was trying to erase him. That night, Qin Yun stood alone beneath the smoke-filled sky. Memories flooded his mind. The chains. The pain. The betrayal. The moment his spiritual veins were ripped away. For a brief moment, despair nearly consumed him. But then something changed. Qin Yun realized something important. The Empire had already taken everything from him. His title. His future. His power. His childhood. There was nothing left to lose. And a man with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous man alive. Slowly, Qin Yun lifted his head toward the 9 suns above. His eyes burned with determination. If the heavens refuse to help me, then I'll carve my own path. At that moment, his entire destiny began to change. As Qin Yun returned to training, something strange began happening inside his body. The single spiritual vein he had left started reacting violently. Spiritual energy swirled around him like a storm. The air trembled. His body burned with unbearable heat. Then suddenly, a mysterious ancient power awakened deep within him. A power connected to the 9 suns themselves. Something far older than the Empire. Far older than cultivation. Qin Yun collapsed to the ground as visions flooded his mind. Ancient gods. Burning suns. Forgotten martial techniques. And a terrifying voice echoing through the darkness. The weak do not deserve mercy. When Qin Yun opened his eyes again, everything had changed. The boy abandoned by the heavens had finally gained the power to challenge them. 10 days later, the princes gathered before the imperial army. Thousands of soldiers filled the battlefield. The nobles laughed when they saw Qin Yun arrive. To them, he was already dead. But they failed to notice one thing. The aura surrounding him had changed completely. His eyes no longer carried weakness. Only fury. Only determination. Only power. As the gates to the battlefield slowly opened, Qin Yun made a silent vow. One day, he would return. And when he did, the empire that betrayed him would fall to its knees. Because legends are not born from comfort. They are forged through suffering. And the rise of Qin Yun had only just begun. The heavenly Qin Palace had never looked more alive. Golden lights illuminated the royal halls. Music echoed through marble corridors. Nobles laughed loudly while celebrating the rise of the empire's new crown prince. But hidden far from the celebration, beside an abandoned stone well swallowed by darkness, sat the boy everyone had already forgotten. Qin Yun, the former crown prince. Only days ago, servants bowed before him. Generals respected him. The empire called him its future. Now, even the guards looked at him with pity. The royal family had stripped him of everything. His title. His resources. His future. And tomorrow, he would be sent to the borderlands like a disposable soldier. A slow death sentence. Groups of royal heirs walked past Qin Yun laughing quietly among themselves. They didn't even bother lowering their voices anymore. The new crown prince already reached the 6th martial stage. They say he fused perfectly with a spirit vein. A 6-pulse genius at this age, terrifying. He'll become the greatest emperor the empire has ever seen. Then Qin Yun heard the part that froze his blood. The spirit vein used to create the new prince's legendary talent belonged to him. His breathing stopped. Spirit veins weren't just power. They defined your destiny. Your future. Your worth. And the royal family had ripped one directly from Qin Yun's body. Then handed it to someone else. The empire was celebrating because another man was living the future meant for him. Something inside Qin Yun snapped. Boom. His fist slammed into the stone well. Cracks exploded across the ancient rock. Again. Boom. Blood covered his knuckles. Again. Boom. I'll kill them. His voice trembled with rage. The empress, the ministers, every traitor in this palace. For the first time in his life, Qin Yun truly understood hatred. Then suddenly, warmth spread through his wrist. Qin Yun froze. The black bracelet, the final gift from his mysterious master before she vanished. 9 ancient black beads rested silently against his skin. Ordinary, ugly, forgotten. But now, they were glowing faintly beneath the moonlight. Qin Yun slowly closed his eyes. And instantly, his body sensed something impossible. 9 different streams of spiritual energy flowing into him simultaneously. His eyes shot open. Fear, shock, disbelief. Because in the world of the 9 suns, every human could absorb energy from only one sun. Talented warriors could handle 3. Rare geniuses could control 5. Legendary monsters were born with 7. But 9, that power existed only in myths. The legendary 9 Yang Pulse. A force so terrifying that entire kingdoms feared its return. And somehow, Qin Yun had just awakened it. Long before empires existed, the 9 suns ruled the heavens. Each carried a different force. Flame, light, life, death, chaos, destruction. No mortal body was meant to wield all 9 powers at once. History claimed every person who tried, died, which meant only one thing. The bracelet wasn't treasure. It was forbidden. And the woman who gave it to Qin Yun had known exactly what it was. Qin Yun rushed back to his room immediately. No hesitation. No fear. For the first time since his betrayal, hope burned inside him again. He sat cross-legged on the bed and activated the bracelet fully. The room exploded with energy. 9 streams of colored light erupted from the beads like dragons escaping prison. Red, gold, silver, blue, black. The energy tore through Qin Yun's body violently. His bones cracked. His muscles evolved. His wounds healed instantly. And the deeper the power flowed, the more terrifying his aura became. Outside the palace, storm clouds twisted unnaturally above the royal capital. Even the empire's strongest experts sensed it. What is this pressure? No ordinary cultivator could create such energy. But nobody imagined the truth. The broken prince they abandoned was becoming something far worse than a genius. Hours later, morning arrived. The 9 suns slowly rose together above the horizon. Qin Yun opened his eyes. And every candle inside the room extinguished instantly. Silence filled the air. Then, he clenched his fist. Boom. The shockwave shattered the wooden table nearby. A violent surge of power exploded from his body. He had broken through to the 3rd martial realm. In a single night. Something considered impossible. But the most terrifying part. The bracelet still hadn't revealed its true power yet. Qin Yun slowly stood up and stared toward the royal palace in the distance. The same palace that betrayed him. The same empire that tried to erase him. His eyes turned cold. No anger. No sadness. Only purpose. Writing. They stole my future. Now I'll take their empire. And somewhere deep inside the bracelet, something ancient awakened. That night, while the empire celebrated its new crown prince, none of them realized the truth. The real monster had already been born in the shadows. And soon, the entire world would learn to fear the name Qin Yun. They called him useless. A broken prince. A failure who would be forgotten by history. But what they didn't know was that inside his body, a forbidden power was awakening. A power that should not exist in this world. And once it fully awakens, the entire empire will kneel. The heavenly Qin Empire was celebrating. Flags waved across the capital. Drums echoed through the royal streets. Today, the empire welcomed its new crown prince. A genius blessed with the legendary 6 Yang spirit vein. The future of the empire. The hope of millions. But in a forgotten corner of the palace, a young man stood alone. Qin Yun. Once called the greatest royal genius in history. Now, treated like trash. 5 years ago, everything was stolen from him. His title. His honor. His future. And even his people. The same nobles who once bowed before him now avoided his gaze like he was invisible. But Qin Yun didn't speak. He didn't complain. He simply watched. And remembered everything. A group of nobles passed by laughing. Greater than, that's him. The fallen prince. He still thinks he matters. Mockery. Whispers. Laughter. But Qin Yun's expression didn't change. Because he had already learned something important. In this world, kindness gets you stepped on. Strength gets you respect. He looked down at his wrist. A broken-looking bracelet. But inside it, 9 faint glowing pearls pulsed like a heartbeat. A secret power. A myth that should not exist. The 9 suns spirit vein. Far beyond the 6 yang spirit vein. But still unstable. Still hidden. Still, awakening. Qin Yun stood alone in his courtyard. Wind moved slowly. Dead leaves scattered across the ground. He closed his eyes. And began circulating his energy. His body trembled. Pain surged through his veins. But he didn't stop. Greater than, if I want revenge, I need power beyond limits. He raised his fist. Condensed all his energy. And struck forward. The ground exploded. A shockwave blasted outward. Dust filled the air. The stone floor cracked violently. Qin Yun opened his eyes. His arm was shaking. But his lips formed a small smile. He was getting stronger. But not enough. Not yet. Qin Yun tried again. This time. He held his breath. 1 breath. 2 breaths. 5 breaths. 10 breaths. His body screamed in pain. Veins glowing faintly under his skin. Then. He struck. A massive explosion of energy erupted. The nearby boulder shattered into pieces instantly. Silence followed. Qin Yun stood still. Then slowly exhaled. His strength had changed. He had broken through. 3rd martial body realm. But this was only the beginning. Deep inside the Imperial Medicinal Gardens. A massive building stood surrounded by guards. The Spiritual Pills Pavilion. A place where royal members received cultivation resources. Qin Yun walked forward. Instantly. The guards noticed him. But no one bowed. No one respected him. One guard even laughed quietly. Greater than, why is the abandoned prince still here? Another said. Greater than, he'll be sent to the army soon anyway. Qin Yun didn't react. He kept walking. Step by step. Calm. Controlled. Dangerous. At the counter. A fat official looked at him with disgust. Greater than, you don't qualify for spirit pills. Greater than, the crown prince is the true genius. Laughter echoed around the room. Mockery grew louder. But Qin Yun finally spoke. Cold. Sharp. Greater than, I am still a prince. The room went silent. The official sneered. Greater than, a useless one. That was the final insult. In a blur. Qin Yun moved. Fast. Too fast to see. The official was slammed into the ground. The entire hall shook. Dust exploded outward. Silence. Pure silence. Qin Yun stepped on his face. His voice was calm, but terrifying. Greater than, a slave insulting royalty, deserves death. The pressure in the room changed instantly. Guards felt it. Energy. Spiritual pressure. 3rd martial body realm. He had broken through. Fear spread. The same people laughing moments ago now lowered their heads. The official trembled. Greater than, I'll bring the pills immediately. Moments later. 5 spiritual energy pills were handed over. Shaking hands. Lowered eyes. Respect born from fear. Qin Yun took them silently. No smile. No emotion. Only silence. Because he understood something now. Power decides everything. Suddenly. Footsteps echoed. The atmosphere changed. 2 figures entered the pavilion. A young noble in red gold robes. And a beautiful girl in white. The noble smirked instantly. Greater than, still alive. It was Qin Tianyi. 4th martial body realm. A rising genius of the royal family. The guards immediately bowed. Even more deeply than before. But Qin Yun didn't move. Didn't bow. Didn't react. Tension filled the air. Qin Tianyi laughed. Greater than, you're still pretending to be a prince. But Qin Yun replied coldly. Greater than, I became stronger today. The atmosphere froze. For a split second. Even Qin Tianyi felt it. Something was different. Something dangerous. Then Qin Yun looked at the girl beside him. Yuan Yanying. His childhood friend. Now standing on the opposite side of his world. Her eyes flickered. Conflicted. Silent. But she said nothing. Wind moved through the garden. Leaves fell slowly. Qin Yun stood alone. The bracelet on his wrist glowed faintly. 9 suns. 9 powers. Something inside him was awakening faster. Too fast. Dangerously fast. And somewhere deep inside the empire. A hidden force sensed it. And smiled. Qin Yun. The cripple who shattered a prince. Greater than, in the heavenly Qin Empire, strength decides everything. Mercy does not exist. Weakness is punished. And betrayal is normal. But on this day, the palace would witness something it could never explain. A so-called cripple would destroy a royal genius in a single moment. And that moment would change the fate of the entire empire. The Imperial Spirit Pill Pavilion stood like a monument of power. Golden carvings, ancient guards, sacred energy flowing through its walls. Only the elite could enter here. And yet, Qin Yun walked inside. No crown, no honor, only silence followed him. Whispers spread instantly. Greater than, that's him, the crippled prince. He used to be a genius, now he's nothing. One spirit vein, how pathetic. But Qin Yun did not react. Because pain had already become familiar. Years ago, he was the brightest star of the empire. A prodigy destined for the throne. Until betrayal destroyed everything. Now he returned, not as a prince, but as something no one understood. A man carrying silent fire inside his body. Inside the pavilion, a familiar voice stopped him. Greater than, Brother Yun. Time slowed. Qin Yun turned. Yuan Yanying stood there. Beautiful, elegant, different. Once, she was the weak girl saved by Qin Yun's grand preceptor. Back then, she followed him like a shadow. But now, she stood beside Qin Tianyi. The empire's rising star. The four-sun spirit vein genius. The perfect successor. Qin Yun gave a calm smile. Greater than, Yanying, you've changed. For a second, her expression softened. But only for a second. Because power changes people faster than time. Yuan Yanying lowered her voice. Greater than, Brother Yun, you received 5 spiritual energy pills, right? Qin Yun nodded. She hesitated. Then, greater than, you should give them to Big Brother Tianyi. Silence. The air froze. Even the guards felt it. Qin Yun didn't move. Greater than, explain. Her voice turned colder. Greater than, you only have one spirit vein, you can't grow anymore. Those pills are wasted on you. A moment of silence stretched endlessly. Then, something inside Qin Yun cracked. Not weakness. Not fear. Memory. Pain. Every insult he had ever received resurfaced. But he still stayed calm. Too calm. Suddenly, a terrifying aura erupted. Boom. Wind exploded outward. The entire pavilion shook. Yuan Yanying staggered back. Her eyes widened. This was not a cripple. This pressure was monstrous. Qin Yun spoke slowly. Greater than, the person who saved your life, was my grand preceptor. And this is how you repay us. Her face turned pale. But instead of guilt, her expression hardened. Greater than, it's reality. That word, reality, broke the final chain. Clap, clap. Slow footsteps echoed. Qin Tianyi appeared, smirking, confident, dangerously arrogant. He looked at Qin Yun like an insect. Greater than, still alive. I thought the army would finish you. Then he grabbed Qin Yun's collar. Hard. Greater than, give me the pills. The entire pavilion froze. No one interfered. Because this was power hierarchy. Qin Yun stared at him. Cold. Empty. Greater than, and if I don't? Qin Tianyi smiled. Greater than, then you'll learn your place. His hand rose. A fraction of silence. Then, everything exploded. Qin Yun moved. Not fast. Instant. Inner chi surged violently through his arm. The air screamed. Boom. A single slap connected. The sound was not human. It was like thunder hitting stone. Qin Tianyi's body flew. Blood sprayed. Teeth shattered midair. His body crashed through pillars before hitting the ground. Silence. Absolute silence. No one understood what they saw. A 4th-level martial body genius. Destroyed in one strike. Yuan Yanying's lips trembled. Greater than, impossible. But it was real. Qin Yun walked forward. Slow steps. Heavy silence. He grabbed Qin Tianyi's collar and lifted him. Greater than, 4-sun spirit vein. 4th level. And you still lost. Qin Tianyi trembled. For the first time, he felt fear. Not pain. Fear. Because the man in front of him was not normal. He was something rising from destruction. Something reborn from humiliation. The pavilion remained silent. No one dared speak. No one dared move. Because everyone understood one thing now. The cripple they mocked was not a cripple anymore. He was the beginning of something far worse. A storm that would not stop. A power that would not bow. A destiny rewritten in rage. Qin Yun looked at the shattered prince. Then slowly raised his eyes. Toward the empire. Toward the future. Toward everything that once rejected him. Greater than, this is just the beginning. Dark energy flickered in his gaze. And somewhere deep inside the empire, forces began to move. Because the monster had awakened. And the empire had no idea what it had created. Greater than. If you enjoyed this cinematic fantasy story, subscribe for more dark cultivation worlds, revenge arcs, and overpowered awakenings. And tell me, should Qin Yun show mercy, or burn the empire that betrayed him? In the heavenly Qin Empire, weak princes are not given second chances. They are sent to war, to die. But the empire made one terrible mistake. They underestimated Qin Yun. Once, Qin Yun was the brightest prince of the heavenly Qin Empire. The future king, the chosen heir. Servants bowed before him. Generals respected him. Nobles feared the power hidden within his spirit veins. But everything changed in a single night. His spiritual vein was stolen. His cultivation crippled. And the royal family abandoned him like broken trash. The same people who once praised him now whispered behind his back. Weak. Useless. A disgrace to the royal bloodline. Even worse, the girl who once stood beside him had chosen another prince. Qin Tianyi, the empress's favored son. A spoiled genius protected by power and status. But Qin Yun never forgot the truth. The royal family didn't just betray him. They destroyed his future. Only 10 days remained before the royal enlistment ceremony. Any prince who failed to reach the 4th level of the martial body realm would be forced into the military. And everyone knew what that meant. Death. Weak princes were sent to the front lines as disposable soldiers. No one survived long enough to return. But Qin Yun refused to accept that fate. Inside his isolated building, he stared at the 15 spiritual energy pills he had stolen from Qin Tianyi after humiliating him publicly. A dangerous smile slowly appeared on his face. If the empire wants me dead, then I'll become strong enough to destroy the empire itself. Qin Yun swallowed the first spiritual energy pill. Instantly, power exploded through his body. Spiritual energy surged through his veins like burning fire. But then, something unbelievable happened. The mysterious 9-jeweled bracelet on his wrist began glowing faintly. 9 different streams of spiritual energy started circulating inside his body. 9. Not 3. Not 6. 9. Even the greatest geniuses in the empire could only absorb a few spiritual elements. But Qin Yun absorbed all of them. Every single one. His eyes widened in disbelief. This bracelet, what exactly are you? The artifact pulsed again, as if responding to him. And for the first time in years, Qin Yun felt hope. Day after day, night after night, Qin Yun trained without rest. He consumed spiritual energy pills continuously, forcing the power into his dantian. His muscles trembled, his bones cracked, sweat poured from his body endlessly. The pressure inside him became unbearable. But he continued, because failure meant death. Outside his room, the empire mocked him. The nobles laughed. The princes celebrated his coming downfall. And Yuan Yanying, the girl who once called him Brother Yun, now proudly stood beside Qin Tianyi. Every memory fueled Qin Yun's hatred even more. Pain became his weapon. Rage became his strength. Only one night remained before the enlistment ceremony. If Qin Yun failed to break through before sunrise, everything was over. Inside the dark room, spiritual energy spiraled violently around him. A golden vortex formed inside his dantian. The pressure grew stronger every second. His veins felt like they were tearing apart. Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. Still, he refused to stop. I will not die here. The 9-jeweled bracelet released waves of golden light. Then suddenly, Qin Yun absorbed the energy of the 9 suns themselves. The room trembled violently. Furniture shook. The air twisted around him. Golden mist erupted from his body like flames from a god. And then, boom, a shockwave exploded across the chamber. Silence followed. Qin Yun slowly opened his eyes. Golden energy burned within them. At that moment, the fallen prince had finally stepped into the 4th level of the martial body realm. Morning arrived. The imperial palace plaza overflowed with nobles, soldiers, merchants, and spectators. Today was the royal enlistment ceremony. Weak princes stood helplessly on the massive red carpet, waiting to be sent to war. Their faces were pale with fear. The crowd whispered excitedly. Everyone expected Qin Yun to stand among them. After all, he was supposed to be finished. Then suddenly, the crowd parted. Qin Yun appeared, wearing simple clothes, calm expression, cold eyes, and something about him felt different. Stronger, dangerous. But instead of stepping onto the red carpet, he stopped beside it. The crowd instantly became confused. What is he doing? Why isn't he standing with the others? Did something happen? Even the princes looked shocked. A luxurious golden palanquin entered the plaza. Dozens of palace maids followed behind it. The atmosphere immediately changed. Then, the empress stepped out. Beautiful, elegant, terrifying. Her phoenix robe shimmered with spiritual energy as if woven from crystal light itself. Every person bowed instantly, but Qin Yun did not. The Empress's cold eyes slowly landed on him. For a moment, murder flashed inside them. Years ago, her bloodline helped destroy Qin Yun's future. Her eldest son was involved in stealing his spiritual vein. And 10 days ago, Qin Yun humiliated her youngest son publicly. She wanted Qin Yun dead more than anyone else. But because of the Emperor's secret interference, she had been forced to wait. Now she believed fate had finally cornered him. Soon, she thought, this useless prince will disappear forever. But deep down, something about Qin Yun disturbed her. He looked too calm, too confident, as if he no longer feared death. The royal overseer stepped forward. His voice echoed across the plaza. All princes below the 4th martial level will immediately prepare for military enlistment. The weak princes lowered their heads in despair. Then the overseer looked toward Qin Yun. The crowd became silent. Everyone waited. Would the former crown prince finally walk toward his death? But Qin Yun simply smiled. Then, a powerful wave of inner energy exploded from his body. Whoosh! Golden energy surged across the plaza. The air itself trembled. The expressions of the nobles instantly changed. Shock, disbelief, fear. One elder stood up in horror. Impossible. Another whispered. 4th level martial body realm. The entire plaza erupted into chaos. Qin Yun had broken through. At the very last moment, the fallen prince had returned. And suddenly, the empire realized something terrifying. The boy they abandoned was no longer weak. The empress stared at Qin Yun silently. For the first time in years, she felt danger, real danger, because the prince she once tried to erase was beginning to awaken power beyond the empire's control. And somewhere deep within Qin Yun's bracelet, the mysterious 9 suns continued glowing, as if waiting for their true king to rise. The empire betrayed him. Now the empire will fear him. Qin Yun, Chapter 6. Beautiful teacher. They said he was finished. A broken prince. A forgotten name in the imperial palace. But today, he either gets exiled to a battlefield, or changes his fate forever. The imperial plaza was packed. Thousands watching. Nobles, generals, geniuses, all gathered for one reason. Judgment. At the center stood a young prince. Qin Yun, once worthless, once discarded, now standing calmly, like none of it mattered. A cold voice echoed across the plaza. The queen, her gaze sharp enough to cut stone. A prince who cannot reach the 4th level of the martial body realm by age 15. Must be sent to the border army. Her eyes locked onto him. Qin Yun, speak. Did you not hear me? Silence. Then, Qin Yun smiled. Not nervously, not proudly, but calmly, like he already knew the outcome. He stepped forward slightly, and said, I heard you. Then a pause. A beat. A shift in the air. I've already reached the 4th level. I don't need the army. I'm done here. For 1 second, nobody moved. Then, the plaza exploded. That's impossible. He was trash 5 years ago. 4th level in 10 days. Even the ministers lost their composure. Because this wasn't just talent. This was a miracle. Or a lie. The queen's eyes turned icy. Lying to avoid conscription, as a capital crime. A wave of pressure spread through the plaza. Prove it. Now. Qin Yun didn't argue. Didn't panic. He simply raised his hand. Slowly. And released his energy. A faint glow appeared. Soft. Controlled. But real. Inner Yuan. Condensed spiritual energy. The crowd went silent again. This time, not disbelief, but shock. Because it was real. He had truly broken through. The queen's expression tightened. No, this must be a trick. Summon the academy instructors. A guard ran instantly. The empire now waited for external judgment. Not politics. Not royalty. But true strength. The southern plaza was different. Youth stood in lines. Arrogant. Confident. Nervous. All pretending not to notice Qin Yun. But they all did. Because he didn't belong here. Or maybe, he did. And then, he saw him. Qin Tianyi. His face still swollen. His pride still broken. Their eyes met. Tension snapped instantly. The queen's voice lowered. If Qin Yun truly enters the academy, he will grow. Fast. Too fast. And a growing Qin Yun cannot be controlled. 10 instructors stood ahead. Each one powerful. Each one respected. But one stood out. A woman in white. Still. Silent. Cold. Her presence didn't demand attention. It stole it. Her name. Yang Xiyu. Age 23. But already 9th level martial body realm. Close to breaking into martial Dao realm. Even nobles avoided her gaze. Because she wasn't just strong. She was dangerous. Qin Yun noticed. Qin Yun looked at her. And something shifted. Not attraction, not fear, but instinct. This woman was not normal, not even close. Finally, his turn. The plaza fell silent again. Even the wind felt heavy. Yang Qiyu spoke. Calm, cold. Qin Yun. He answered instantly. I am Qin Yun. I've reached the 4th level. I want entry into the Hualing Wu Yuan. She studied him. Long pause. No reaction. No praise. No rejection. Just observation. Like a blade measuring another blade. Seconds passed. Then more. The silence became unbearable. Some nobles started sweating. The queen didn't blink. Qin Tianyi clenched his fists. Because everyone knew. This next moment would decide everything. Finally, Yang Qiyu spoke. Softly. But it carried pressure. I've heard your name. But rumors mean nothing here. A faint aura spread around her. Controlled. Sharp. This test will decide whether you are a genius. Or just another broken prince chasing delusion. Qin Yun didn't move. Didn't react. Didn't fear her pressure. He simply said. Then test me. A pause. The air froze. The empire held its breath. A forgotten prince. A ruthless empire. A terrifying teacher. And a test that could change everything. Yang Qiyu lifted her hand slightly. And said one word. Begin. Chapter 7. The Battle of the Princes. In an empire where truth is decided by strength. One mistake means exile. One weakness means death. And one prince is about to be exposed in front of everyone. Or reborn as something far more dangerous. The imperial plaza was silent. Not peaceful, but tense. Heavy. Like the air itself was waiting for something to break. Thousands of eyes were locked on one boy. Qin Yun. A prince who was supposed to be broken. A prince who was supposed to fail. But today, he stood in front of the entire empire. And in front of her. Yang Qiyu. Cold. Unshaken. Watching everything without emotion. Her voice broke the silence. If you are truly a 4th level martial body cultivator. You will show it through your inner qi. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Release it. Qin Yun took a slow breath. The plaza leaned forward. Even the queen didn't blink. Then, he moved. Inner energy circulated through his body. His palm lifted. And a faint mist appeared. Silence. Then confusion. Then laughter. The crowd erupted instantly. That's it. That weak mist is 4th level. I've seen stronger energy from beginners. Laughter spread like fire. Mockery filled the plaza. Even nobles smirked. Even guards shook their heads. A voice shouted, I can fart stronger energy than that. The humiliation was complete. The empire was laughing at a prince. But Qin Yun didn't react. Not angry. Not embarrassed. Just calm. Too calm. Like none of it mattered. He turned toward Yang Qiyu. And spoke clearly. I just formed my inner yuan this morning. I'm still learning control. The queen's eyes sharpened. She had seen enough. This is not proof. This is desperation. Her voice turned colder. You are not a 4th level cultivator. You are wasting everyone's time. But Qin Yun smiled slightly. Then said something dangerous. Teacher Yang hasn't judged yet. So why are you so afraid of the result? The plaza went silent again. A few nobles frowned. Something felt wrong. Because Qin Yun wasn't acting like someone lying. He was acting like someone waiting. Waiting to be confirmed, not exposed. Yang Qiyu stepped forward. Her presence alone silenced the crowd. No emotion. No hesitation. She extended 2 fingers. And touched Qin Yun's wrist. Instantly, her expression changed. Just slightly. But it changed. She felt it. Inside his dantian. Inner energy. Real. Stable. Forming. But something was wrong. Impossible. Even. A one yang spiritual pulse. Should not be able to do this. Her eyes narrowed. She checked again. More carefully. Then she spoke. Slowly. Clearly. So it is real. The plaza froze. Even the wind seemed to stop. You do possess inner yuan. A pause. Then. And you have truly reached the 4th level of the martial body realm. The plaza exploded. No way. It's real. He actually did it. The same people who laughed. Now felt heat on their faces. Shame. Shock. Disbelief. The queen's expression darkened instantly. Because if Qin Yun is real, then he cannot be controlled. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed again. Old officials stepped forward. Their voices sharp. Teacher Yang, be careful. He might be using demonic arts. Yes. His progress is unnatural. This is dangerous. The accusations spread quickly. Like poison. One official shouted. His previous grand preceptor was rumored to use forbidden arts. He may be corrupted. Qin Yun's eyes turned cold. For the first time, anger appeared. Real anger. I worked for 5 years to recover everything you stole from me. His voice rose. And now you call me a monster. The plaza went silent again. Qin Yun pointed forward. At the queen. At the officials. At the empire itself. You stole my spiritual veins. You destroyed my future. One of them was even given to your own son. Shock hit like lightning. The crowd froze. The queen's face turned pale with rage. Her nails dug into her palm. Her killing intent exploded. But she didn't speak. Because silence was safer than truth. And then he arrived. Prince Qin Tianyi. His face still bruised. His pride still broken. But his voice was loud. Confident. You speak too much for a cripple. This is all excuses. You only reached 4th level by luck. He pointed directly at Qin Yun. I challenge you. Fight me. Right now. The plaza froze again. Even the nobles held their breath. Even the queen didn't interrupt. Because this wasn't just a duel. This was a political storm. Qin Yun looked at him. Long silence. Then, he smiled. Cold. Sharp. Good. I accept. The wind shifted. The crowd stepped back. A circle formed. 2 princes. One broken past. One corrupt future. Everything stopped. Because everyone understood one thing. This fight would not just decide victory. It would decide the future of the empire. Qin Yun raised his hand slightly. Qin Tianyi stepped forward. And the world held its breath. The Battle of Princes was about to begin. Chapter 8. The Battle of the Princes. In an empire ruled by bloodlines and power, a single duel can decide your future. Or erase your existence completely. Today, a prince will fall. Or a monster will be born. The crowd quickly retreated. A massive empty circle formed in the center of the imperial plaza. No one spoke. No one smiled anymore. Because this was no longer a ceremony. It was a battlefield. On one side stood Qin Yun. Bloodline broken. Past erased. Future uncertain. On the other, Prince Qin Tianyi. Favored. Supported. Raised on endless resources. And fully confident in victory. The empress watched silently. Her eyes cold. Calculated. Beside her stood the old officials, already smiling. Because in their minds, the outcome was already decided. General Yuan stepped forward. A man in black armor. His voice was firm. 4th prince will win. His tone carried absolute certainty. Beside him stood his daughter. Yang Yanying. She looked at Qin Tianyi with admiration. Not even considering the possibility of defeat. General Yuan continued. Qin Yun has no backing. No resources. No future. This fight is already over. The empress did not correct him. She simply smiled slightly. Cold. Confident. The empress leaned slightly forward. Her voice lowered. If Tianyi wins, a pause. Reward him with 20 spiritual energy pills. That one sentence changed everything. Because it wasn't just a reward. It was permission. Permission to end Qin Yun. The crowd understood instantly. This was not a duel anymore. It was an execution, disguised as competition. At the edge of the arena stood one woman. Calm. Unmoving. Cold as winter steel. Yang Xiyu. Her eyes studied everything. Not politics. Not emotions. But Qin Yun. And she said softly, I will oversee this match. If they fight, there will be injuries. But no one will interfere. The empress agreed instantly. Because she believed Qin Tianyi would win anyway. A single word echoed across the plaza. Begin. The moment it started, Qin Tianyi moved. Fast. Clean. Perfect foundation. His steps were stable. His breathing controlled. His movement refined. Even senior officials nodded in approval. This is true talent. No wasted movement. As expected of the royal bloodline. He closed the distance instantly. Like a storm breaking silence. But Qin Yun did not move. Not even a step. Not even a breath. The crowd laughed again. He's frozen. He can't react. He's done. Qin Tianyi smirked. Too slow. And then, he struck. A heavy punch landed directly on Qin Yun's face. The impact echoed across the arena. His head snapped sideways. Blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. The crowd erupted. He didn't even dodge. Pathetic. He's finished. Qin Tianyi smiled confidently. And looked toward the empress. Proud. Victorious. But something changed. Qin Yun's body moved. Not backward. Not collapsing. But stabilizing. Inside him, inner energy surged violently. Like a storm breaking chains. His eyes opened. Calm. Sharp. Dangerous. In an instant, Qin Yun moved. His fist shot forward like lightning. A burst of inner chi exploded outward. Not controlled. Not gentle. But explosive. The punch hit Qin Tianyi's abdomen. A dull thunder echoed. Qin Tianyi's eyes widened instantly. His body bent. Blood spilled from his mouth. He stumbled backward, then collapsed to his knees. Gasps filled the plaza. This can't be real. Before anyone could react, Qin Yun moved again. His legs swept through the air. Wind howled. Pressure cracked the ground beneath him. A brutal kick struck Qin Tiany's chin. His body lifted off the ground. Spinning. Helpless. Broken. Then, silence. Qin Tiany fell unconscious. Dead silence. No one spoke. No one breathed. Even the wind stopped. Moments ago, they were mocking Qin Yun. Now, they couldn't believe what they saw. He won. No, that's impossible. He defeated the prince. Even fourth-level cultivators in the crowd felt fear. Because his strength was not normal. Old officials rushed forward, panic rising. They checked Qin Tiany's body. Then, their faces changed. His spirit veins are breaking apart. Inner energy is dispersing. He's crippled. Shock turned into horror. Qin Yun stood there, blood at his lips, chest rising. And then, he laughed. Low, cold, uncontrolled. So this is your genius. His voice echoed. This is the prince you all trusted. The empress's expression darkened. For the first time, fear appeared, not of Qin Tiany, but of Qin Yun, because this was not just a victory. It was exposure of a system built on lies. Suddenly, an old red-robed official stepped forward. His voice roared, "Demon child, you must die." He released a shockwave of inner energy. It struck Qin Yun violently. Qin Yun was forced back. He coughed blood. The crowd gasped. Finally, he is injured. The official raised his hand, ready to kill. But, a shadow appeared. Instantly, without warning, Yang Xiyu stood in front of Qin Yun. Her voice was ice. He is my student. If you want to kill him, you go through me first. A pressure exploded outward. Invisible, heavy, absolute. The red-robed official froze. For the first time, fear entered his eyes. Two forces collided in the air. Inner energy clashed silently. The plaza trembled. The empress narrowed her eyes. This is getting dangerous. But Yang Xiyu did not move. Not even an inch. Because she had already decided. Qin Yun was hers to protect. Behind her, Qin Yun slowly straightened his body. Blood still on his lips. But his eyes were brighter than before. His inner energy was still rising. Still unstable. Still dangerous. And he whispered, "This isn't over." The duel was finished. But the war had just begun. In a world where destiny is written in spirit energy, one awakening decides everything. Genius, or trash. God, or forgotten name. And today, a broken prince steps into the most important test of his life. Chapter 10. Martial Spirits. 200 kilometers from the imperial capital. The world changes. Mountains rise like ancient giants. Covered in mist. Drowning in silence. A river cuts through them like a living dragon. This is the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range. A place where nature feels alive. And dangerous. At its edge stands a massive structure. The Walingwu Academy. A fortress disguised as a school. Older than empires. Stronger than kings. A carriage enters the academy gates. Inside sits Qin Yun. Injured, but healing. Quiet, but aware. Beside him stands the woman who changed his fate. Yang Xiyu. Cold. Beautiful. Unshakable. She looks at him and asks, "Can you walk?" Qin Yun steps down instantly. No hesitation. No weakness. Even Yang Xiyu is slightly surprised. You recover fast. The academy is not a school. It is a kingdom. Palaces. Training towers. Spiritual gardens. Everything stronger than the imperial palace itself. Qin Yun looks around, and realizes something. This is where real monsters are made. Yang Xiyu's voice breaks the silence. Tuition. 20,000 crystal coins. Qin Yun pauses. That number is heavy. Impossible for normal people. But she continues. I will cover it for now. But you must repay me. Her tone is strict. Not kindness. Not charity. A contract. Qin Yun nods. I will return it. Her eyes sharpen. This academy is not gentle. If you fail the end-term exam, you will be expelled. A pause. Then, you must survive here first. Students gather. Elite children. Noble heirs. Hidden geniuses. When Qin Yun enters, the atmosphere shifts. Whispers begin instantly. Isn't that the abandoned prince? The one from the palace incident? He still came here. Eyes filled with mockery, curiosity, suspicion, fear. But Qin Yun ignores them. He sits down calmly, like none of it matters. Yang Xiyu steps in. The room instantly goes silent. No one dares breathe loudly. Her voice is cold, sharp, absolute. If anyone causes trouble, you will regret it. A pause. Then, even your family name will not save you here. Silence deepens. Students realize something. This is not a normal academy. This is survival training. Outside power means nothing here. Only strength matters. Yang Xiyu places a crystal object on the podium. A tower. Beautiful. Ancient. Alive with energy. This is the spirit channeling tower. It awakens your martial spirit. She continues. The stronger your spirit, the brighter the tower. Ranks are explained. Bronze. Silver. Gold. Platinum. Golden purple. Legendary. She places her hand on the tower. Instantly, white gold light explodes. The room is blinded. This is platinum martial spirit. Shock fills the classroom. This teacher is a monster. Names are called, one by one. First student, silver wind spirit, decent. Second student, silver water spirit, better. Fire. Third student, golden fire spirit. The crowd reacts. Impressive. Students start gaining confidence. Then, a name echoes. Yi Weishuan. The room changes instantly. Whispers. He's from the Yi family. They have thunder spirits. He steps forward. Calm. Confident. He places his hand on the tower. Silence. Then, crack. Lightning explodes inside the crystal. Golden light floods the room. Golden thunder martial spirit. The classroom erupts. A true genius has appeared. Students begin comparing. Fear rises. Competition begins. Because now they understand. This academy is full of monsters. And Qin Yun still hasn't awakened. Yang Xiyu looks at Qin Yun. For the first time, a hint of expectation appears in her eyes. She calls his name. Calm. Clear. Qin Yun. It's your turn. The entire classroom turns. All eyes lock onto him. Some mocking. Some curious. Some silent. Qin Yun stands up. Slowly. Calmly. And walks toward the tower. Because now, the empire is about to see what kind of spirit a broken prince truly has. End.